next guest took a classic Dionne Warwick tune and made it over to the crossover hit of the year. Here to perform Don't Make Me Over. Welcome, Miss Sybil!
Yeah, as I said, we always have an international audience. Always great to get them to. I mean, some in Europe might know you, and some in other parts of the country might think, oh, I thought she was British and stuff. But where were you born and raised?
The funny thing, I will say this: I'm a Jersey girl, New Jersey. I was born in Paterson, New Jersey, which is right 12 miles west of New York City, and born and raised, educated in the city, college in the South. I attended and graduated from college in North Carolina, though.
Okay.
So I have strong ties to the South, to North Carolina in particular.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
A number of my guests who I've interviewed have come from New Jersey. The members of Rift, I don't know if you know
them. Yes, they're actually my home. They're from my hometown. We're home people, as we say.
Okay, yeah, Nitty Green and the rest of Dwayne, they're really good friends. And then members of Blackstreet, Chauncey Black and
Chauncey, Levi. I know.
Oh, Levi. You know, yeah, Levi is a very good friend of mine. Yes, with Eric.
Yes.
And so. But yeah, recently I interviewed Gina Thompson. She's from New Jersey, but she's from a different side, and also KG from Naughty by Nature. So
yes.
Also so it was surprising that a lot of talent has come out of New Jersey, which has surprised a lot of us. When you were growing up, what was and I know of the great Regina Bell and the Bell family, but when you Big Bob from Today and stuff. But when you grew up, what were you inspired by musically?
It was, well, you know, the thing in my household, we listened to all types of music, all different types of genres. My father and my mother were both really into jazz. And so we listened to a lot of jazz and of course, a lot of R&B. But then of course, I had my grandmothers, and my grandmothers listened to gospel. And so I was strongly influenced by that. But because of the nature of where I grew up, my exposure to music was really was very vast and varied, because my friends didn't all look like me. Some of them were of European descent. And so rock and roll and, you know, the rock and roll, and they loved that stuff. So I grew up listening to all types of music. So I was familiar with who Leonard Skinner and AC/DC and you know, and Def Leppard and Grateful Dead, just like I was the OJs, you know, Gladys Knight. And so it was just kind of really very interesting, and knowing who Yuma Sakala and Nina Simone and some of the jazz greats, you know, McCoy Tyner, it just, Miles Davis. I grew up in a household where music was always there. You know, at the family gatherings, it was always there. We would sing, even the family members who couldn't sing would sing. And it was just, yeah. So in terms of music, and then I studied classical violin growing up as a kid, and did musical theater in high school, through high school. And so, and thereabouts did some theater afterwards. But so my influences were home, church, and my exposure and my environment that really kind of dictated my love of music, all types of music.
And then, but growing up with, you know, we mentioned a few of the people from Blackstreet to Regina Bell and the rest, and they started getting into music early and doing talent shows. Were you also on those talent show circuits?
It was funny, actually. Yeah, I did. And I was not one of those types of singers who, I always loved to sing, but music, I never wanted to be a musician. I never wanted to be an artist. I thought I'm going to be an attorney. That was what I aspired to be. That's how I studied, and that's how I prepared. But music was always there. I mean, I grew up singing in the church, and so it was always there. I ended up doing a couple of talent shows, and I actually did a talent show and sang a Whitney Houston song. And it was so funny. Saving All My Love. It was such a fun time for me, because I was just doing for the fun of it. But I won the talent show. I thought, what in the world?
Wow.
But because it was just, I guess I never took myself really serious. But I also was a perfectionist, and so I was not going to get up there unprepared. And needless to say, so I did the circuit, so to speak. But then I started singing with bands and performing with bands, and ended up singing with a gentleman by the name of C.C. Rogers, who ended up having a hit record Someday on Atlantic. But I was part of CC's group, CC and Company. I was part of the company. And so, you know, we would do shows in and around the New York, New Jersey metropolitan area. So the circuit, the whole talent show circuit, yes, but not so much as I did working with bands. I would do kind of one-offs with different bands.
You mentioned you went to North Carolina for college. So when did what did you study? Did you study law in college, or what did you?
Let me tell you, the funny thing is that no, I was a double major. I was a professional speech and theater arts major with a broadcast communication emphasis.
Okay.
And so that's what my bachelor's is in. My master's is in leadership studies and adult education. So I work with young adults now at a college, and I love that. I love that because our institution is one of the few schools that has entertainment technology as a viable degree program. But I work with students that are in various areas of program of study. And so, it's just kind of what I do, what I've done, yeah.
So, but no, because when you moved to New Jersey to North Carolina for college, was this still, instead of getting a career, you focused on that, then started to sing, or what was the transition?
Well, I sang through college. This is the funny thing. I want to share something with you. One of the things I would sing all the time. I would sing I would sing for different events and different programs around the college. And I think I ended up becoming Miss North Carolina A&T State University. And I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that I always thought I was never that girl. I was not that's not me. I'm not a pageant girl. But that's not my thing. But I think that I ended up winning because I was really cool with everybody. I mean, I was cool with the international students. I was cool with the other sororities. I'm a member of a sorority, and I was friends with women in other sororities. I was friends with guys in fraternities. I was friends with different organizations. And so singing was always something that I did. And even for my coronation as Miss A&T, I was the first Miss A&T to sing. Literally, I sang at my coronation, and I sang Denise Williams' Black Butterfly. Wow. Because I absolutely love I love butterflies, and I love my blackness, and so I don't run away from that. And so for me, it was just kind of really fun to be able to continue singing, but I didn't do it. I did it for fun through college. I did it mostly for fun, and I did it, with and around people and for people and with people who just had a love of music. I actually sang with it was Barbara Weathers, who was the lead singer of Atlantic Star, and she's from the Greensboro area. And so I would work with the band that she was with. So periodically we would be doing shows together. And so it was just kind of, I did it, I loved it. And then I graduated college and I started singing with the bands because it just kind of kept that continuum of being engaged in music and being with people who loved to perform. So, it's just kind of, I didn't study music on purpose. Let me say that. I tell people that because what I realized, I'd taken a theory class, a music theory and a musical notation class. And I thought that class was harder than any of my science classes. And I thought, I don't want to have to work this hard. I didn't want to lose the enthusiasm that I had for music. And I feel like sometimes when you study something, it takes away the organic nature of how you do what you do. And so I applaud and give kudos to people who study and can read. I can read music and I can actually follow music, but in terms of, they stick to it. I wanted to be that. I'm like, nah, I didn't want it to be that serious for me. Then it became my career for a long time and became serious for me because I was trying to make a living.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then, because when you were studying and in college, what was it that you thought you'd do with your degree once you graduated?
Well, I thought I was going to go to law school. Honestly, my plans were to leave to graduate from North Carolina A&T, and I wanted to head back home. I was really interested in attending Columbia University. I wanted to be back home. I wanted to be in the Northeast, and I wanted to be an attorney. Well, I studied for the LSAT, which is the exam to kind of gauge where you are and your preparedness for the rigors of that type of program. And I realized I said, you know what, I don't want to do that either. So, but I ended up working at a publishing company. And I enjoyed that. I was a proofreader and editor for a publishing company, and I enjoyed that. but I was singing on the weekends. I mean, I was singing, even singing during the week. I mean, on Wednesday night, literally Wednesday through Sunday, I was, singing after work. I don't know how I don't know how I kept a job, but needless to say, when I made the decision in 1987, it was, I had done a demo, and my first record was Falling in Love. And I had done it for the UK. It was on Champion Records, but it was in Next Plateau Records in the US. And I remember I had a decision to make because they said, you can tour. We've got 3-month tour for you if you want to work. I was still young, and my mom said, you know what, go for it. You're still young. You can always come back and you can always come back and find another job, And so, and I ventured down that road and never looked back, actually, and never looked back. And then I realized when I decided I wanted to step away from it, that came years later. And it came after just kind of feeling less enthusiastic about how the music industry was going. And I felt as if there wasn't room for someone like me, at that time. It had changed dramatically. And I thought, nah, this is not what I signed up for. And I had to make a decision to figure out what else I was good at and try to make a foray into that.
Yeah. No, but before then, I guess that's the interesting part, is that you're working in the industry from a publishing point of view and stuff, and you get this opportunity. So by 87, so we did have Atlantic Star, Midnight Star, and Phyllis Harmon. So we had a number of Anita Baker, had a number of Sade and all that that's out. And this is out just before the whole New Jack Swing was coming up. What was your sort of take as the direction of music that you thought you might try and get into, based on who was out at the time?
Well, the thing is that I had done house records. I was a house head. I mean, just real talk. I used to be at the Paradise Garage and Zanzibar and Cheetah. I loved house music. I was like absolutely loved house music. I loved house DJs, the late Larry Levan, Frankie Knuckles. I mean, I loved Steve Silk Hurley. I really liked house. I liked the way that I felt as if it was the only kind of music where you can just kind of get lost in it. And you didn't have to worry about, singing a line or a lyric right. You just kind of got that bass, that whole groove. And I loved, and I actually, those are the types of clubs that I would go to. And then, of course, I'd go to the R&B clubs, but the R&B clubs were playing combinations. They were playing, a combination of different types of R&B and then house. But the house was the Jocelyn Brown, the Gwen Guthrie, and they were vocal records, and I loved that. And so for me, and then what is it? My Colonel Abrams and So they was playing. Those are the types of kind of house, kind of housey R&B tracks that I fell in love with. And so when I came out of Don't Make Me Over. It came out in '89, and it came out at a time when it was like a real cool vibe in music. You had Soul to Soul. You had the Brand New Heavies. You had, there was a group out of the UK that I loved called Tongue in Cheek. They had a really cool song called Never Nobody that I absolutely loved. And so I liked a lot of the British soul groups that were out at the time. And Loose Ends by far.
Loose Ends, yeah, I was going to say Loose Ends.
Absolutely one of my favorites. So I got the opportunity to do work with them. And just, for me, I felt as if what I was doing was pocketed, and nestled really nicely with what was happening. It was not until considerably later that I realized that things had changed. They were changing. It was not about being the gifted singer and or having a great song. It was about, it's just like, is your beat right? And are you young? And are you just image? It became, we became all consumed with image, what someone looked like. And I thought, what happened to the days when you really had to have a voice? I mean, you had singers that were making records. They weren't singers. You had a lot of that. And so a lot of the groups fell by the wayside because the way touring went and the way that record companies were investing, it was just not it was not ideal for the real singer or the real songwriter or the real producer. It was more about, okay, can they sell records because they look like they're about 12 singing these adult records, or they're cool, and it just changed in a way that wasn't comfortable for me.
Yeah, I mean, so although I was born in the UK, so in the 80s, I went to boarding school in Nigeria. So
Hmm.
a lot of so even when you came out with your songs, and I always tell my guests that, if I'm referring to music that came out towards in the mid to late 80s, I went to college in Alabama in '92, so I moved. I stayed in the US in the '90s, but I was in the '80s. So if I heard your record, I tell people that sometimes you might not recognize that. Yes, it was big in the US and maybe big in Europe, but if it crossed over to parts of Africa, we didn't have
Yes.
social media, we didn't have the internet, so it meant the record was really big, that it went internationally without you guys knowing. And so I just wondered then, when you mentioned these British bands that were doing extremely well, like We Love Loose Ends and Soul to Soul and Brand New Heavies and stuff, and there was a different vibe between with the British soul that was happening out in the US. But it was a big thing for us to recognize that yes, you decided to invest in sort of the UK and European market as opposed to the US. What did you think about? Well, let me try and master my hometown, or just forget the it's easy access in the UK. Or what was the thing?
I don't think I wouldn't say it's easy access. I would say that people generally gravitate towards where they're loved. It's oftentimes many of us are not loved up upon that we're not loved upon at home. You have, I mean, not being funny, Tina Turner left the US a long time. I remember Edwin Starr, from War, he ended up living in the UK. There were so many artists that
Alexander O'Neill.
Alexander O'Neill, Jocelyn Brown. I mean, literally, there were so many, because it's not that I wanted to make it big here, but the music industry, the way radio was how radio was configured wasn't kind of in line with some certain types of artists. And so after a while, you found yourself not being the taste, the taste, or the butter on their bread or the jelly on their toast. It just wasn't what they weren't clamoring to get you to come. And then, but what I have found, I've traveled and I love South Africa. Is absolutely, I go to South Africa quite a lot, and I've been quite a lot, and I absolutely love Africa, the continent. I love Africa, and I love different parts of different countries within the continent that are on the continent, because like you said, what I have found is that the records that they sing of mine, they're in the albums. They've gone into the album. And outside of Africa, then Brazil is a very big support. Brazil, when I tell you, the second largest number of Black people in the world are in Brazil. And I found that out. They have they speak Portuguese. Some of them can't understand anything if I'm speaking to them, but they can sing every song. I'm talking about songs that were not even singles. They know them, and so what I have discovered is that I like to go where I'm loved on, and I like to go where I'm appreciated. And so, yes, I would have loved to have had the same levels of success in my home country that I've had in other countries and in other places. And for some, people don't realize that after that "Don't Make Me Over" album, I did multiple albums and did really, really well with The Love I Lost and When I'm Good and Ready, and just different projects that I had worked on for other labels. So people don't realize that. And so I feel as if many of us, we don't leave here because we don't want to make it here. We leave here because we want to make it. We want to be able to have our gifts, the gifts that we've been given, to be able to be used and to be embraced. And so as much as I get frustrated or get traveling gives me anxiety sometimes, I go because I know that on the other side of it, there are going to be people who wanted to see me. And so that means everything.
It's interesting because I saw an interview with Tevin Campbell in South Africa,
Yes.
and he was saying that, that he was surprised how people in South Africa knew his songs word to word, and one of the things that he enjoys doing is because he fit the appreciation. And I think the same station, I think it's Espresso, I saw you in 2017 perform there, and I said, wow. So as you were saying it, there is an appreciation in other parts of the world, because we don't get to see any of you guys live, especially now with the pandemic.
Yeah.
So of course, when we do get to see any of our artists, we're really, there's a clamor to see, because we don't get that every day. And I think in the US, you can get spoiled for choice, and you can say, no, we don't want to go see you. We want to see them. And I can see how, in a way that you may not always be appreciated there. I did see you on the Apollo when Sinbad introduced you, and you said, don't pass you. And I do wonder how that was then, going to the world famous Apollo, and performing, because I saw you there dancing like, oh, I'm gonna have to rock the Apollo.
Yes. It was amazing. It was really, I felt as if I was in somebody else's life, because as a young person, you think Showtime at the Apollo, and you think the Apollo Theater, and you think Sandman, because I would watch, that was something we would watch. We would watch Amateur Hour. You watched it. And so to be there and to be introduced by Sinbad, who was really such a gentleman, such a nice guy, really, really funny, and but he was so inviting. But being there, and I'm going to tell you, the funny thing is that I will not say the name, but there was an artist that had gone on, because you do these multiple tapings, and there was an artist that had gone on, and it was an artist with a hit record, but they didn't sound anything like the record. The audience booed, and I thought, oh my God. So needless to say, I have to go on. So, I was going to give my best voice, my best everything, because I knew they didn't care who you were. If you were not good, they didn't care if you had sold 1 million records. If you got on the Apollo stage and you flopped, they were going to let you know you flopped. And so for me, it was just like, I felt like I had really, had done the stuff. And it was very much the same thing when I did Soul Train, because I grew up as a little girl watching Don Cornelius and Soul Train. And so to be on Soul Train, I thought, oh my gosh, I'm on this, first of getting there and the taping, you think it's this big, huge place, and it's not. It's a studio, and the dance, it was just, those were some of the highs for me. Some of the real highs for me were being able to perform in places that I only dreamt about or never imagined that I'd be on those stages. So that was everything. And third, let's say another highlight for me ever is that I was a major Barry White fan, loved Barry White. And I ended up I did a radio show with him we were in Detroit, and it was me, Shantae Savage, and I opened up for him. And I'll never forget, I was so nervous, so nervous. And he put his hand, because he's a big man, and he tapped me. He said, you go out there and knock him dead, baby doll. And I thought, oh my God, that's Barry White. That's Barry White. Like, no, he didn't say that to me. And so
it is very deep voice as well.
So I was like, I could not believe it. So I've had some really cool moments, some really, really, really cool moments. And just meeting people that I admired and respected, and just like to go to the Apollo. I'm gonna say, I took my mom to see Gladys Knight at the Apollo, and my mom looks a lot like her, and we had backstage passes that a friend of mine worked for her label, and we were able to get passes. So I introduced my mom to her. Wow. And she looked, and she looked at, Gladys looked at my mom looked at her. She said, my mom said, people often say that I looked like that we look alike. And Gladys said, you do. She said, you look like you could be my sister. So my mom, that was a high for my mother. You know what I'm saying? So sharing some of those types of moments have been really cool too. Just being able to engage with people that your parents liked and or admired, and you grew up listening to. Because Gladys Knight and the Pips, I could have sang every song, much like a Marvin Gaye. I grew up Marvin Gaye, because everybody said my dad looked like Marvin Gaye. So I guess I was kind of gravitating towards artists that kind of favored people that I really loved.
It's funny, because Levi Little, when I interviewed him, he said that, with all the success Black Street had, his parents didn't recognize until they saw him on Soul Train. That's right. That's right. Say, oh, you're famous. You were on Soul Train. You were on Soul Train,
exactly. And and the funny thing is that was, even now, when people see the tapes of it, they get excited, because they're like, wait a minute, so that's right, you were on Soul Train. They get excited, and it makes me get excited, because they're excited.
No, but it makes sense, because I did watch it recently, the Apollo, And I was like, wow, she's really getting into it and trying to, and I don't know, because Father MC said he was always nervous going to Apollo just because of what you see, the booing and stuff, and that they didn't respect, didn't matter if you, as you've said, platinum
Yes.
artists and stuff, if you don't entertain us, we boo you the same way we boo the
They and that was true. And I felt so bad. I was sitting there, I wanted to cry for the artist. I was sitting there thinking, oh my God, that was, and literally they booed. I mean, they booed. It was, and they had to stop and tape again and ask the audience not, yeah, it was horrible. Yeah. I was sitting there thinking, I would not want to be her. Yeah, it was very interesting. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How different was that from being on Top of the Pops, which was our British version of Showtime and Apollo?
But let me say this, I was just as nervous on Top of the Pops because of the historical, part, the aspect of how big that was. It was comparable. Top of the Pops was like our American Bandstand,
okay.
and it was kind of a happy combination between American Bandstand and Soul Train. So because you had the diverse artists. And so when I did Top of the Pops, the funny thing is that I'm used to singing live, and it was very difficult for me. It was very difficult for me to sing. They changed it, but the first time I was on there, they had us lip sync, and I thought, I can't. It was so hard. I had to study because I never ever sing a song the same. I don't ever sing it the same way, and so I had to listen to the version that they were going to use, and literally had to practice the song, because I'm used to singing it live, and I kind of embellish and add a little this and a little bit of that. So it was difficult, but I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I got to meet some really cool people at a number of the tapings, and so it was really fun because I'd done Top of the Pops, and I did their one of their holiday specials and all. So that was fun. Yeah.
So I mean, when because I remember, as I said, it's about 89 or so when you had your global hits, and I always say global hit.
That was Don't Make Me Over and Walk On By.
Yeah, and so it was actually the Don't Make Me Over, because I was still in high school, in boarding school, and it was a massive track. And as I said, when it's global, it's like if it comes to Nigeria, it's a big thing.
Yeah.
And as I said, and that was the time when we had some Maxi Priest singing. It was the same type of vibe, and as I said, we appreciated the diversity of that type of song. And I always do tell people that if they looked at the 80s, a lot of the artists that came out in the 80s, it was about their voices and their voice. Who sang It's Raining Men?
That was the Weather Girls.
Okay. I mean, so even image was not an issue. I mean, how people dressed, it was not an issue. It was about the song, it's about the lyrics, it was about the talent. And that shifted definitely in the 90s and stuff. But was that record initially released in Europe, or was it released in the US? Don't Make Me Over.
It was released in the US, but it became a hit because it was remixed by some soul boys out of the UK, out from the Liverpool area.
Oh, that's where I'm born, Liverpool. Yeah.
Yeah, and so and what happened is they ended up giving it that soul to soul kind of vibe, and that's what took it to a whole nother level. So it really it was released in the US and back in to the UK, but it was on the backs of the strengths of them hearing it be what it became. I mean, just everything about it. Because when I first did, I wanted Walk On By to be the first single, but Eddie O'Loughlin, who was the president of the label at that time, wanted Don't Make Me Over. He said, I just think that it's a perfect record. I'm sitting there thinking, I don't like it like that. and so we ended up releasing it, but it was not until they did the remix that I fell in love with it, and it became a big record. I mean, just a massive record for me. Yeah, it kind of changed. It changed the trajectory of how the types of shows that I got, because I was getting a lot of house shows and underground. A lot of the house and DJs and a lot of the clubs, because I had my first record, Falling in Love. Then I had Let Yourself Go, My Love Is Guaranteed, which were house and dance records. Wow. But they were big house and dance records. I mean, Music Week they were top 5, at the year end, and they were like 3 or 4 big. They were big records in dance and in house. And so this was the big mainstream record for me, you know, and people don't know. I didn't realize I would come to the UK, and I came prior to there being a Kiss FM. Okay. And so I was working in and around the UK with labels that I didn't realize they were not radio stations per se. they were radio stations, but I think they were called pirate. They were pirate radio stations.
Yes.
But I had no clue. You know, I had no clue. I was just, because I perform in the clubs and it would be packed. So these radio stations had massive followings, but not until so it became different when Kiss FM. Because you know, it was just BBC
it was just
Radio.
it was just the BBC, and there was not much of an emphasis on black music.
Exactly.
So you do have the pirate state DJs, and they would probably broadcast, you know, in somebody's house, and then the police coming in. But it was very big with the underground. So I mean, now R&B music is probably one of the biggest now in the UK. Even the BBC have a dedicated R&B 24/7.
That's right.
But back then, I mean, as I said, when a record blows up internationally like that, what does that do? Are you prepared for it? You know, as an artist, how does one prepare for global fame like that?
You don't prepare. I mean, it's kind of disjointing. You know what I'm saying? You get just kind of, there's a disconnect initially, because you're sitting here thinking, I was good where I was, you know, but then you realize that you might have been good, but that's not all that was on the, you know, on the horizon for you. And so you don't know, you just go with it. You just prepare yourself by always just being on your game and being prepared vocally and just living a certain kind of way so that you can always be on point. I've always stayed away from a lot of things that would probably deter me from being able to vocally be on, you know, have my chops right and being able to physically do what it is I need to do on stage. So for me, it's just like you don't prepare really. You just kind of live a life that is just devoid of a whole lot of nonsense, and because it's your gift, it's your job, and so you prepare for it as such. And so you don't show up drunk, you don't show up high, you don't do that. You don't live a reckless life so that you can't give people who have been supportive and want to hear you sing the record in the key that it comes in, you know, or sing the song and remember the lyrics, those types of things. So it's really important. It's you don't get prepared. You're ready. I always say, you have to be ready for whatever. Don't say whatever, but be ready for whatever.
How did going to finishing college and then also having that stint working within publishing help you just business-wise as a musician, as a artist?
Well, I realized it was a business. Let me say that. I realized it was a business because I didn't do music publishing. I did different types of publishing, but I understood the concept, okay, of what publishing and what it looked like. And then I had a really cool boss who was really into publishing, and he shared things that were more from the business and not from a music end, which made a difference for me. And so working in industry, so to speak, I understood that. And when you talk about the music, it's not the music, that's not music fun, it's the music business. And so that business aspect had to be considered, because you could have a great deal of talent, but I'm fortunate. I've always thought I was on the brink of bankruptcy, but I never lived like that. I never lived beyond my means, because I didn't make the millions and millions like a lot of other people might have. So there was nothing. I've always worked. I've lived within frame of what I've earned, and didn't rely on or believe that other things were going to come. So I realized it was a business, and I handled it as such. You know, I did things that I thought I made smart. I thought relatively smart decisions. You know, in terms of things that I purchased. I mean, I've never lived just never lived crazy, and so today I think that if what I earned was, I'd be a millionaire if what we were earning back then was fast forward to the cost of how living is now, and the units sold and the performance, I'd be really rich. But you know, back then we weren't making the kind of money that these young people are able to make now, because there are just so many avenues and so many ways that money can be earned they did not avail themselves to us. So I handled it as a business, and I think that, and I stayed clear of a whole lot of foolishness with spending.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's the one thing that 90% of my guests sadly have said, is that they got put with a contract. Attorney says, "Yep, that's standard," but they didn't understand what standard means. Is that what standard means? We standardly take away all your money and your publishing and stuff.
Exactly.
So it might be standard, but it doesn't mean it's good for you in the long
run. Right. That's right.
It's after they, from Jodeci to SWV, it's after they've sold a certain amount of records, and they're like, wait a minute, our bank accounts don't seem to equate to the success.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
But then, then how did you manage with yourself, with your life? Did you then think, okay, I need to write to own some publishing in my stuff, and not just rely on covers and things like that?
Well, the thing is, my early songs were all songs I wrote, and it's funny because the first record was Falling in Love. I didn't write that, but then I did Let Yourself Go, My Love Is Guaranteed, and I wanted to be a songwriter, and I ended up having hits with other people's records. I made a lot of more money for Burt Bacharach and Hal David, and then Gamble and Huff, and I made money for people who are solid songwriters. I mean, just rock stars in the writing and production game. But it was not until I realized, wait a minute, I need to be making some publishing money. And so that's when I just really said, no, I have to have a certain number of records that I've written or contributed on the project. I said, if they're not going to be single, fine, but I need to write. And so that's when they kind of they said, yeah, she's a good writer. She can, because I'd written Let Yourself Go, My Love's Guaranteed were big dance records. They had done well for me. I wrote those songs. I mean, so it's not like I couldn't write, but they wanted to stay on that track of covers. And I thought, so after a while, that's another thing. You become frustrated because they're not hearing you. They're not hearing your vision for where you see your career. And that becomes a problem. Yeah, that becomes a problem.
So, I mean, did you spend a lot more time in the UK with success, and did you relocate to the UK?
Let me say this. I was back and forth so much. At one point, I just got a flat. It was easier to have a flat because it was cheaper. It was cheaper. And because I was there so much. And I was there so much. And so I actually lived in Notting Hill Gate.
Ooh, okay.
And not far from Carnival, which was really cool.
Yeah.
And it was, so that was really fun and interesting. I lived on Pembridge Crescent, actually. And so it was really, it was fun. I liked walking because it was a Chinese restaurant that I liked on Bayswater. There was an Indian restaurant. So it had everything, and I had access. And then Kensington High Road was right. It was easy for me. And so, so I did that for a number of years. And then I had friends. And so then I didn't have to worry about it. I always had a place to be and stay after I'd separated myself and was no longer doing music consistently there with my label. I would go back, and I always had a place to be, because I'm really good friends. I've got Angie Brown from Bizarre Inc. is a good friend of mine, and I spend a lot of time with Miss I'm Gonna Get You Baby, Yeah. And so then further up north, another friend of mine in Manchester, Kasha, she has artist entertainment group. So I've got people all over the UK that have been there for me, even when I've not been at the highs, and we've just been working. There's no record to promote. There's no nothing. But we had a really successful tour, Sisters of Soul tour, that Angie Brown and on occasion Alison Limerick and Kim Mizell. There were different people who would pop in and pop out. And participate. Rosala. It was really fun. They were good times. So I worked quite a bit there. And when I was there a lot, yes, it was, I always joked and said it was my second home, but it seemed like it was mostly home. Yeah.
You worked with is it Pete Waterman?
Yes.
And a lot of people might not know. Well, a lot of British and Europeans might know them because they did a lot of stuff with Kylie, Jason Donovan, and stuff. They were
And then they
also
got me. And they were like, they didn't know what to do because I was surely different from them, from the rest of the people they produced. Let me say, very different.
What was it like working with them? Because they were our version of Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis at the time. You know, just continue. They were almost
With a little
guaranteed
less
success.
soul.
Yeah, well, yeah, a little, yeah, but if a pop version of them, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was cool. It was cool. It was cool. I think the thing, I don't know if they knew what to do with me. They wanted someone like me, but then I don't think they knew what to do. I don't think the same level. I will say this, and I'm just going to put it out there. I don't feel as if the same investments were made in the Brown artists that were made in the other artists, and that always bothered me because it seemed like they pushed certain records and certain people when I was right. I mean, I was primed. I mean, I built in. It was really could have been very, very simple, but I had to work for everything. Let me say that I had to work really hard for everything that I got on that label. And you know, I'm Mike Stock. You know, it was Pete Waterman, Mike Stock, Matt Aiken. They were, you know, Stock, Aiken, Waterman. I worked mostly with Mike and Pete because at that time Matt was kind of on his way separating himself from, you know, from working with the team. But I give them kudos and I applaud them because they really great songwriters and great producers. But I wish they had listened a little bit more to some of us. Like Princess was on the label at the time. You know, there were other artists that I think should have gotten just as much shine. And I don't know if that same investment was made. It's unfortunate, but you know, I can say that like there's nothing they can do to me anyway. It's not like they really paid me the way they should have, but anyway. Yeah. So, but it was interesting. They were. Let me say this. Recently, I ran into Pete Waterman in August of 2021, and I hadn't seen him in many years. And it was pleasant. Let me say that. Yeah.
Okay. So when the 90s came and it was dominated by a lot of the 90s, and the R&B really took a lot. You know, then eventually mid 90s was a lot of hip hop and R&B. How was yours thinking about, you know, I know that a lot of the industry had changed and they were thinking about image, producer-led beats, and you know, whether we can, if you know, we can use auto tunes and turn a dancer into a singer.
Yes.
I'm not going to name any names, but if they could do that to her, you know, it meant like, yeah, you know, we can do this to anybody.
Yeah.
For real vocalists like yourself, how did you then think, wow, how do we make it and how do we survive in the way the industry is going?
You know, I didn't worry about it so much because at that time I had done collaborations with Salt and Pepper. I had worked with Salt and Pepper on some of their projects, and so I did background on some of their songs, but I did a song with them called Independent, and which was really cool. So it was one of the first R&B hip hop collaborations. People don't realize it, but it was early on. We had done it early on, but it was called Independent. And I remember being in the studio with Salt, Cheryl, and it was really fun. She's like, Sybil, she just kind of let me do what we had a discussion, and she kind of let me do what she felt would work for that record. And so I saw the change. However, the good thing was that I still, Don't Make Me Over, for some reason, and Walk On By seemed to work well with that vibe, that with that group. You know, I mean, I was on tour. I went out with with Rex and Effect and Guy, and so I was able to SWV, and I mean, I was able to fit into that R&B, into that area too. You know, and because I also had done a song Crazy for You, which featured Salt and Pepper, that was released in the US. So I had moments where in audiences, you know, in front of, I guess, people, with groups who were considered R&B, you know, New Jack, hip hop, R&B collaborations and so forth. So for me, it was just, I mean, I just kept working. I don't think I really stopped working until 2000 maybe. you know,
Okay.
and it slowed down, it slowed down. And I don't even know why. I think I made a decision that's like, you know what, I'm tired of doing this. And honestly, yeah, real 1999 and 2000, that's when I was like, I'm tired. I feel like I was just like, oh, yeah, I was exhausted. I'd been doing it since 1987 and I was just tired. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And is it at that time you decided to change careers, go back and do the masters and
At that time, I actually ended up going into education, and I found my other voice doing it. I absolutely thoroughly enjoy making an investment into young adults who who are considered marginalized, okay, who are need help making a decision about how their lives can look better than they looked. My first teaching job, I was recruited by one of my mentors who was the director of a program, and I ended up having 15 to 18 students who were appointees from the Attorney General's office. They were deemed at risk,
wow.
and I found that they just really needed to they just needed to be loved up on, and they needed their gifts and their talents to be kind of, nurtured. And so it was during that time that I realized I'm actually really good at this. I was really good at connecting because it was a no judgment zone for me. And since then, everything that I've done as it related to the college has kind of propelled me in been kind of, that's been the direction that I've taken. I'm really fortunate. I just recently received the Martin Luther King Jr. Service Leadership Award from the Multicultural and Inclusion Committee at the college, and that's a big deal for me.
Wow.
And I won the president's. So I won the President's Award earlier, and the end of 2021. So it's just like things have been happening, and I feel like you make investments in other people. When you make investments in other people, then everything else falls into place. And so it has allowed me to be able to have a steady, like a steady gig, a consistent gig, and then indulge myself with the singing, and not rely on the singing to take care of me. I do it because I love it, and the extra money is great. It's great, but I don't run after it. Like I tell people I don't move desperation in that arena anymore. Trying to chase down promoters, and I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. I refuse. I'm at the age now where I know my worth, and I know what I'm capable of doing. And music has opened up many, many doors. And even here at the college, it's like some of the students that I've had, they think it's the coolest thing ever. that they can see a video of mine, they've heard me on the radio, or their mama told them that they saw me at a show. So for me, it's just it makes sense. I've come full circle with the reality that I may not ever have another hit record on the charts, but I still sing, and I will continue to sing.
Yeah. I mean, how is it like going back on stage at this, just being live and stuff? Because I know that there's a massive revival for from the 80s, 90s, because people are disenfranchised with the music that's out there today. What's it like going back on the stage? Do you go with a band or backing tracks, or how do you perform?
I do both. And I absolutely love it. And the funny thing is, I tell people, they said, will you stop singing? I said, no, I sing every Sunday at my church. And I keep this instrument. And, as a woman of faith and a believer, I know that this is a gift that I received. This is a gift, and I have to take care of it. And so it's like I give this gift back to the very one who gave it to me. So I sing on Sunday happily, even when I'm frustrated and I want to stay in bed. I get up because I'm thankful that I do have the ability to still sing, and it just keeps me on my toes. And then I do club shows with tracks. I'm doing in the springtime, I'll be out with a band. And so I'm excited about that because I love performing with musicians and colleagues. I love it. I love doing it. And then I'll probably be back in the UK for some of the festivals, later in starting in June, July, August, September. Yeah. So I'm supposed to be in London in March for something. And then back again later on in May. So I'll be in the UK working, but like I said, I do things on my terms now. I don't do these long, sing every night kind of gigs. I'm not doing that. I mean, because I actually sing. And so as you get older, you realize, you realize that you can't do some of the things that you used to do with the same level of ease.
Yeah,
And so I pace myself and I prepare myself to be able to do good shows. And so that means not overbooking. Like I said, I'm not going to chase a dollar. I'm not going to do it. I remember doing 2 and 3 shows a night. And by the third show, my voice and body was I was exhausted. So I'm not doing that anymore.
Yeah. I mean, and I think there's a difference when you put out music or sing for love and not because you're chasing, like, when I need to pay my mortgage tomorrow, so I need to do a couple of shows and stuff.
That's right.
And also then become subjectable to dubious promoters who would promote the show with your name on it, and then on the night says, I'm not paying you, but people have already bought the tickets and stuff.
That's right. Yeah. Been there, done that. And and it's really sad because they think it's you. They don't realize it's not you. And so we early on, years ago, it has not happened. I promise you, it has not happened in 2 decades. but I remember early on, it's like, yeah, they would try you. They would try you. So I said, I'll tell you what, you pay me up front and I'll be there, but you pay me up front, and I will show up if you want to, whatever you need to do, but I will be there, but I'm not coming out. I stopped leaving the US without being paid in advance.
And I think as fans, one of the things we didn't know about the whole music industry business side, but we also recently found out about the promoters and how dubious that could be. Kelly Price was on. She was called to do a show in Texas. She was in there, and she was on Instagram Live saying, "I'm here. I've got my band and my music director, but I've not seen the promoter and they've not paid us, so I can't go on the show because I'll have to pay everyone, and yet the person hasn't paid." And I think it just opened our eyes as fans. Like, wow, how is that possible? Because we'd always assume that the artist shows up and then either gets tired and decides, I don't want to do it, and because that's how we feel. And so we get despondent, we get upset with the artist, not realizing that promoters behind the scenes are using this to cover costs and losses and stuff.
That's right. That's right. It's that is a real that's a real scenario, and unfortunately, artists sometimes have gotten a bad name because of it, because of bad promoters. So I always say, if you don't know the promoter and they don't have a track record, you might want to wait, and not make that investment in buying tickets to stuff that doesn't have a track record.
Okay.
Yeah.
So going forward, so you mentioned a number of shows that you're doing in the UK. I mean, for those in the US who'll be watching, what can they expect to see you at all in 2022?
Yes, in 2022, I'm going to be doing some winery gigs, with a band, which is really cool, kind of intimate wine. I love outdoor type festivals. So I'm going to be doing a number of outdoor events in and around the US. And so, we'll start in April. I think it's going to be April, and end of April is kind of going to be the first outing of the festival season here. And so I will hopefully be able to post and share where I will be.
Okay. And then how do you manage because when I think of house, I always remember CNC Music Factory and Black Box. Was that the type of and is it Snap who had the power? And so was that the type that you
Yes. And it's funny because Penny Ford still is a sweetheart, good friend of mine who sings with Snap. And I remember CNC Music Factory, David Cole was a brilliant producer, great musician. And so I had worked with him prior to him being CNC Music Factory. So it's like, I just working with that's the vibe. And I worked with them. I would do work with groups like that. So I was really kind of an anomaly, so to speak, because I could do the house stuff and then do the R&B stuff, and it was really kind of nice. It was it was really kind of nice. Yeah. So, but when we go out, it's so cool when you have a band doing kind of house, because they get excited because of the energy on it. The drummer always loves it.
Yeah.
He always loves it, you know. So it's always really fun to see that. Yeah.
So, but when you do go on tour, do you, apart from your big hits, do you then play some of that, like CNC and stuff, because it's
I
how?
play other people's stuff. I mean, there's songs that like I may do a Stevie Wonder classic, you know, and then started out one way and then it ended up being kind of a dance, because I've maybe heard a dance version of All I Do in a club, and I liked it, you know. I may add a gospel record, you know, in there, a contemporary gospel record. It really depends. The one thing you will not catch me doing is rapping.
You're not gonna do the independent rap version.
No, because look, I sang the hook, and Cheryl and Sam, they did the rap. I'm like, that's not my thing. I give my, I bow down to that, because that is an art. And so I joke about that, and I'm like, I will not be rapping. Okay. No. not at all.
I think finally there's been I think some of the male artists did a lot of their sort of collaboration. You know, we had LSG, which was Stevie Wonder, Keith Sweat, Gerald Levert, and Johnny Gill.
Yeah.
We had Tank Tyrese and Genuine come together. We didn't get female artists sort of saying, let's try and form some sort of like a super group and perform. Was there anything that you could thought about, either doing a sort of a tour with three other powerhouses, or even doing a sort of a collaborating group?
Well, the funny thing is that I actually work with Robin S., CeCe Peniston, and Crystal Waters, and they ended up doing Black Girls Rock. I didn't do, because my son, I guess, was a little too slow. He wanted more house, but I don't know. But we've gone out as the Divas of Dance, and have done really well, especially in South Africa. I mean, we went to Zimbabwe, and we've done the tour, and it's done really well. I think, it's so funny, because I see some of the shows with the female artists, and I said, I don't know why it's difficult for women to actually work together without feeling as if they've got to compete. I'm like, there's a reason. All of us have something that's unique to us. Be okay with sharing it, but I find that it's very difficult to get women to agree without one wanting to be a prima donna, and so I stayed out of that. I stay out of that. I will say this: my cousin Maxine is an original member of the group En Vogue, and she's working on a project. And so I really have an idea. So if I'm going to ever do anything with a woman, it'd probably be a family member, and it probably will be Maxine.
Okay.
Yeah.
I interviewed Don Robinson, and I think a lot of us, we missed the original four, and when they broke up, I think it's not the same. They could have been the greatest female group if they had just kept all four and stuff, and so it's disappointing and stuff. But I did hear that you and Maxine, but having those types of collaboration and those type of creative things are things that are stuff that the music industry is very different. We know no one's buying records the same way.
That's right.
And to get streams, you'd have to have a TikTok hit, and most of those are connected with hip hop, and the music. It's only young people, not young people, but a lot of young people buying trendy music that aren't really live. So I don't know how easy it is for artists to make money making records as it used to be, and having to not have to spend so much on touring.
I don't get it. There are a million. I'm like, wait a minute, they're what? TikTok. let me tell you, I signed up for TikTok. I don't know how to tick, nor do I know how to talk. Okay, so it's a mood issue. It's like, give me a microphone, give me a studio, let me give it to you. You know, I can't. I'm like, it's too much.
It is.
Yeah, too much.
It is. I mean, it is luck of the draw, and I said it's they do have labels and hosts programming and people behind backing them to say, okay, how to make something viral and trendy and stuff. But as I said, the good thing that you've said consistently is about being in a place where you know, you don't need to pay for your house. So I need to go and do some shows and feel that pressure. So I guess those who sit and listen to you are seeing you sing from a place of love, as opposed to okay, where's my check? So I need to go, I'm out of here, kind of thing.
That's right. That's right. And I've had to let some promoters know that. I was sitting thinking, wait a minute, you called me. You called me. And I'm not just not being cocky, but it's like, I'm not, and I will say this, and I repeat, I said, I don't move in desperation. I don't move in desperation. I'm not going to sell my soul to the devil, because I'm just not going to do it. If it does not feel right, and if you can't afford it, that's okay. You know, this is my number. And if you can't afford this number that we have on this contract, I'm okay with that. But I'm not going to sell myself short, and I'm not going to move in desperation. And that's the thing. I think a lot of people, they think, I'm like, I know my worth. I know my worth. And that's the one thing I say to you. I said, you all need to understand your worth and understand the value of the gift. It is a gift to be able to sing, to be able to create. It's a gift. There's an art to it, and people need to pay for that.
Yeah, and that's really good to hear. And as I said, as fans, we're willing to do so if we knowing that the truth behind things. Because as I said, when Kelly Price is saying, well, I've not got paid, so I'm not going to tour, I think it was hard for us to, when you're thinking about money, we just wanted to sing, but not realizing, she said, look, I have to pay for my band, my music director, I mean, the sound guy, I mean, it's coming out of my pocket. Now we're not going on tour, we're not going to perform. I still have to pay them. We flew out here, I had to pay for my flights. And now a promoter's not paying us. And so we start to think, wow, so it actually is something that, you know, it's not just that you want to go out and perform, but everything has to be covered. So yeah.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I always ask my guests, if you were stuck in an elevator and they said it'll take 2 or 3 hours, but we can put a movie for you to watch, what movie would you request to watch?
Oh my gosh. Oh gosh. Okay, because I have favorites. Now, I like old movies.
Okay.
And so I'd probably want to watch Carmen Jones with Dorothy Dandridge, Harry Belafonte. Because it's music, it's Black people, and you know, just I'd probably want to watch an old movie. Because it is singing in it. It's a story, but it's beautiful people of color.
Yeah.
You know, and one of the earlier. So I could watch that happily.
Okay. And then the other question is, what's your all-time favorite song?
Oh my gosh.
By any artist.
Wow. I'm a major Marvin Gaye fan, and I've got two. Gotta say, I've got two. What's Going On, and then the Stylistics, then sung by Phyllis Hyman, Bet You by Golly Wow.
Wow.
It's a classic R&B song, and then she did it on the Norman Connor's You Are My Starship album. And I love that song. I don't know why. I just think melodically, I don't know, that song always, you know, did something for me. So Bet You by Golly Wow and What's Going On.
Who else covers that?
Because it was the Stylistics, and then the Stylistics did it early on, and then Phyllis Hyman did it.
Okay. But then did someone do it after her?
Prince? I don't know. I don't know. Those two versions of my version.
Okay. I'm thinking of something Prince might have done that with something that sounds something.
The other song I know the song you're talking about by Prince.
Okay.
No One Compares. That's the one that Prince did, that Sinead O'Connor did, and somebody. No One Compares to You.
Okay, no, I thought it was a better Golly Wow, but anyway,
You'll check it out.
yeah, I'll definitely check it out, the stuff. But
Yes.
it's been really good. It's been really fascinating to hear your story. I mean, with the whole focus of the show is just to get to know the person behind the music and the
Cool.
journey and stuff and the inspiration. And I know that it's been an eye opener for a lot of us just hearing the stories. Feel it just being able to understand how the challenges, how the adversity, but also the fact is how your career has taken you to be able to give back. And so that's also inspirational as well. And you know, I changed careers, and I'm a mental health therapist, and I work with under 18s.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, that's, in fact, I think I spent time with almost 200 high school kids today, talking to them about depression and how to overcome that. And I
Yes.
know the importance of, and especially within the Black community globally, we have a very different view about mental health. It's like, no, it's fine, I'll go to church and stuff. And
Yes.
so it's
No,
just
I mean, therapy is for everyone, and we have to break down that stigma that's attached, that black people think that it's not for me. No, it is. It is. You know, because I see so many of our, and I mean, I lost one of my babies. His mom is like, she calls me auntie, and we lost him to suicide. You know, but this is 21 years old. You don't, you know, you're battling, you know, and so mental health and addressing it is for everyone. It's for everyone. I lost a student named let me say this. Jerome, he was just a good kid, you know, just a good kid. And I came back from a holiday break, and this was 2003. And that's what made me really focus on making sure I pay attention to students, you know, pay attention to them, because yeah, they, you know, they're going through. Yeah.
Yeah, and especially men,
Yes.
they have the highest suicide rate because when they make a decision, they go through with it. With females, when they attempt suicide, it's very much of a cry for help. So may do an overdose and not take tablets, and but we can always revive them or cut. But they'll do it in a way of like, see me and stuff. But when guys take it, they actually go through. They say that's it, and so
Yeah.
it's but then there's a culture for men, that sense of, well, boys don't cry, you know, you need to toughen up.
Mm-hmm.
And when you've heard that all your life, and you're struggling with stuff, who do you talk to? A
That's
lot of
right.
your dad doesn't, if you even have a dad is present, he doesn't know about the emotional engagement. Mom's dealing with other things, and your friends are just talking about sports and stuff, and then you're left to deal with all this stuff by yourself. And people don't seem to have time. That's the thing, you know, that time to listen, to look, and to act.
That's
We
right.
don't have that. We're always busy and stuff.
And that's what you got to take time. And that's one of the things. I mean, what I'm really excited about is, and when I say I was excited about receiving this award, is because in the midst of when the virus came, and they said that we were going to go to online. Many of my students can't afford. They don't have technology. They come to school, come to use our labs because they don't have technology. They don't have devices. They don't have access to internet at home. And so upper administration asked me, they said, Sybil, if you could have your wish list, what would it be? And I told them, I said, I need devices. I need to make sure that our students can leave here and be able to go get online, because I've had a number of them that panicked when they said they had to go online. So my fight for equality, when you talk about equality, you know, what the big buzzword around here is diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I said, when we don't when we don't diversify how we spend our dollars, and we don't make it equitable, and we don't include everyone in the conversation, then it's a problem. And so, I had fought, you know, and I ended up getting 300 computers, 100 hotspots, and paid for. I mean, we're not loaning, we're giving. And I just got another large sum of money that I've got to spend, because I was able to spend almost, you know, $500,000. So they gave me more. And so my thing is this: I want to do for students who desire to be better and do better, but they don't know what that looks like, and so we've got to help them along. And so I get it. I mean, and it does require, and sometimes I connect them to counseling because we see, because I deal with the students who are deemed at risk, and they're dealing with issues, life issues, homelessness, transportation, childcare, mental health, physical, just health issues, living, like, where am I going to lay my head? I mean, those are big deals. And so those are the things that I address, and how to connect them to resources when they do test positive for COVID. What's the conversation, that you need to have with the institution so that you're not penalized for not coming? And where can we direct you so that you can stay, in school, stay on the track of learning remotely? So those are the things I wanted to teach them how to I teach them about advocacy, but self-advocacy, and I do it by example. I sometimes have them sitting with me as I'm having conversations, because think about it, when people are when they're in strife, in the middle of, just chaos, everything is it's at 100, it's escalated. And so they need to not be there when they're trying to get help. And so we have to de-escalate them and get them to a place where they can engage in a conversation to explain what it is they need, where the other person is not distracted by the other stuff that they're bringing. And so I enjoy what I do. It can be heavy sometimes, but for the most part, I feel as if I'm giving back, what has been given to me, because I'm fortunate. I've had support, and I've had people who believed in me, and a family that has supported me, and friends who have supported and continue to support me, in my ventures here at the college. So I just think that we just need to be okay with having conversations that are uncomfortable to some people, and that they don't just see the people that look like them, they see all people, and I see all people,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and it's really good, and I do hope that for that message, especially that we do take time to listen to spend time with people, because, as I said, it's everyone might say we all have problems, but then there are problems that are bigger, and you're dealing with somebody who's trying to look for a place to sleep, trying to look for something to eat.
That's right.
And it just takes sometimes just time. But as I said, when you do go on tour this summer, if we, as I said, we do have a lot of audience in the US, so it'd be good if we get the dates. We'll post it. We'll let people know about that when you're coming to the UK and stuff. If you have the information, we'll post that and stuff. But it's as I said, it's been a great time to hear your story and hear what you're doing now, and I'm sure a lot of those who get to watch will definitely be blessed. So I appreciate your time this evening.
Thank you very much, and I look forward to meeting you and seeing you out. If it's going to be the UK or if it's the US, wherever it is, it'd be great to catch up.
Thanks for watching. Please remember to subscribe to the channel, but most importantly, to press the notification bell so that you can be notified when we do have a new interview. Loads to come, but thanks a lot for watching. I begin to